What's up, y'all? Teacher Tuesdays here to make you better, help success tangible, and keep helping you out in your swing. So this week we're going to be talking about planes, right? And autopilots and pilots and all those wonderful things, okay? So let's jump right into it, right? I got to give a quick shout out to my boys at PJC repping right here. Love y'all boys. Shout out to Coach Cox. Keep building what you're doing, man. Pumped about you, right? Okay, so what I'm really talking about is our brain, right? So our brain is a really important thing with how it interacts. It really touches everything that we do and everything that we produce as a baseball player, okay? So let's break this down without getting too deep into it, okay? So one of the functions of the brain is to find the most efficient way to do something. Okay, because your brain is under a lot of stress, right? Like right now I'm talking, right now I'm breathing. My brain is not actively frontal lobe, active brain thinking about breathing, right? Other parts of my brain are controlling that. So let's call it as a subconscious. So my conscious brain is thinking about this and looking at you and are my fingernails dirty and should I do this? But like the rest of my brain is helping, like all these things I'm doing with my hands, my subconscious is directing them. So like your brain wants to turn as many things as possible into a subconscious action. Okay, so it doesn't have to be on mental stress, because your brain doesn't like to be in mental stress. It likes to be able to just like be an autopilot, right? This is what we do. We've done this. What it's called a brain groove. And every time you do it the same exact way, you're grooving in deeper and deeper and deeper into your brain. This is how we do this when X happens. Okay. Now that happens in baseball all the time.
And the key is to train someone to do it unconsciously.
The left part of your brain asks questions, right? How am I going to accomplish a task? And a lot of people call it analysis paralysis, right? Your left brain operates about 40 instructions per second, which is extraordinary, right? The right brain operates at 11 million instructions per second. You don't want to be in left brain thinking about swing thoughts when you're in the batter's box and a baseball's coming in at 95 miles an hour. I want to already be in right brain. The neural pathways are already built, you're prepared, and that preparation is going to build confidence.
So like we will, get into autopilot with what we're doing, right? With how we practice, with our routine, with all these things. Because our brain wants to be able, our brain knows that baseball is difficult. And it knows that we have less than 0.4 seconds to hit the baseball and do well. It will try and simplify everything to us, right? So like and a great example of that is, look, like when you practice and when you're in the game, a lot of times those swings look different. I think a reason that it happens is because your brain simplifies and goes back to the groove, the brain groove that it knows best, so you can relax, because it knows how difficult the task is that you're about to do and that you're trying to do, okay? So like, but what we've got to do to prevent that, right? Because we're putting a bunch of time in practice, putting a bunch of time in the cage, a bunch of time watching and reading and listening and learning, right? To prevent that, we've got to make our practice, or at least a part of our practice, as game-like or stressful as possible, okay? Because what happens is your brain trusts that groove, because it can just put it in autopilot and go, okay? But what we've got to do is we've got to build up trust in this new way, this new thing that we're doing. Okay? So like we may not be able to get to the depth of the groove on this one, right? But we can build trust in this new groove that we're trying to do with the training and all these different things that we're putting into it. Okay? So like that's how we got to get out of autopilot. So how do we do that? A lot of times in practice, like we've got to make it challenging, right? Like we've got to I don't know if y'all have ever seen Driveline. Like when they compete, like hitters versus pitchers, like it's crazy. Right? They get after it. They get after one another. They talk a lot of smack. They do a lot of different stuff, right? Because they're making it intense. And like people throw down bets, like all these different things. Like there was a guy a couple years ago that literally bet, like they were betting on a car. Both major league guys, right? But they said, if you win, you get this car. If I win, I get that car. So like, but that's like, that causes you to be under not stress, but situations that are close to game-like. So now these new things that you're trying to do, you're building trust in your brain. So now when you go into the game, you're not just going to go to what was. You're going to have enough trust to stay out of autopilot, right? And go this way, right? So think about it. So autopilot would look like you're driving, right? You got a bunch on your mind, a bunch of different things, right? So like, and you start driving somewhere that you normally go, right? But then you realize 10 or 15 minutes into it that that's not actually where you're supposed to be going, right? You're supposed to be going somewhere else, but your brain went into autopilot because it was under stress in other places. Think about with baseball, right? Like, you know, like I can think of an example. I was working with a guy and like we were working on this, you know, the powerful, like being really good from here to here, not doing different things with his hand and manipulating the barrel. But when he would get in the game, it would manipulate, right? Because that's what his brain knew, and he was under pressure and he was under stress. So his brain went back to autopilot so it could deal with the other stress without getting overloaded. Okay, so that's what we have to work towards, at least part of our practice. Okay, and again, a lot of that can come from intensity. A lot of that can come from like just something as simple as this, right? Take an example. I used this a couple weeks ago. But there's a guy, you know, college guy. He and I are hitting. We're working on this different stuff, right? And I said, okay, I'm going to give you 8 warm-up pitches. So I want you to act like you're the second hitter, and you get to see these 8 warm-up pitches, okay? And like, I want you to you're in the box. What you would do in the game, you're right here, right? And so like, then he came in and goes clap, clap, clap on balls, right? Because it was just different. It put him in a different mindset, right? It put him in that game mindset. So then we are in the game mindset, and then we are able to find things to build trust with his brain to say, hey, trust this new groove. I know that it's easier to just be in this autopilot, but if you'll stay with this one, it'll get better results, which is going to have you less stress emotionally, right? And this groove is worth it, right? And it worked, right? We're still building on it. We're not there completely yet, right? But like understanding, like the trust is there. Now we're bridging the gap between game and practice, and that starts with attacking autopilot, right? So like, again, like that thing in the brain is good and it keeps stress off of us and keeps pressure off of us, and that's fantastic, but we've got to kind of work against it a little bit and build that trust to say, hey, I know this groove is here and we've done this 10,000 times, but we're going to build this trust. So because this way, the second way is better and it's different. So expecting that by just hitting off the tee, doing flips, doing this, it's not going to happen, right? Because your brain's not going to believe you. And when you go to the game, then the same results are going to come, and you're going to get frustrated, and you're going to continue to be frustrated, right? So we got to learn and understand kind of how the brain works so we can work not against it, but with it. And if we got to trick it sometimes, then we trick it. It is what it is, right? Because it's about getting the result, right? I heard Austin Riley say, I don't care if you got to stand on your head or do a cartwheel to do this with the swing. It doesn't matter, right? So if we got to trick the brain, we got to trick the brain, okay? So that's the biggest thing about autopilot and trust. So if you're enjoying this and you want success to keep being made tangible, subscribe so we can keep helping you out and you can keep getting better. See ya.